Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be diving back into mysql. We will be covering basics in regards to working with commands in the basic mysql environment. For this demonstration I'll be using mysql workbench. We will not be diving deep into the uses of the ins and out of mysql workbench, but here is a brief overview. On your main window you will see some query window where all your mysql commands go. Here is where all your commands are executed one by one, and all those outputs are basically showcased in the main output window, which is located at the very bottom of your mysql workbench. Here you basically get to register three basic actions, basically involving the time, the specific action, as well as the message. Usually these three parameters register the status of a particular command execution as a success or a failure. On the very left hand side of the mysql window you will see a bunch of databases which have already been created in past or previous sessions. Usually your databases will appear here, but that's about it. So yeah, in this particular video we will try to cover the basics as to getting the hang of it and starting to get work done on it. Particularly we will cover select, where and order by. But before we get started we basically need to create a small database. In this case we will go with an example regarding school. Let's create a table called students and we will add some data into it, and we will try to explore the SQL magic step by step. So yeah, so let's get started. This is the main window, and here we are required to create a database called mysql db. Here you are always required to give this command use mysql db. Before you execute, you will basically see two icons on the very top. The first icon basically is a lightning bolt, which basically shows as you hover your cursor over it, it will give you a brief understanding as it will execute the selected portion of the script or everything. However, the other one would basically execute the statement where the keyboard cursor exists. In this case we will go with the first one, and when you hit enter you would see that your two commands have been executed appropriately and the success message has been showcased at the very bottom of the output screen. As you can see, the three parameters basically register the time, the action, which basically refers to the command that was executed, and the number of rows which were affected, basically meaning that particular command was executed. So in this case we basically executed the create database command as well as the use mysql db command. Here in the schemas you will see two arrows in the up and bottom directions. If you click on it, it will refresh, and as you can see our mysql db has been created, and you can basically view your commands over here. For now we will basically comment out our commands such as create database mysql db so as to prevent the reiteration or re-execution of the same commands. So you basically put the hash symbol in front of your existing commands in order for the mysql interpreter or compiler to basically stop the execution of that specific command, and it will basically ignore it. So yeah, once this database has been created, we will like to create a students table. We will basically use unambiguous names. Let's say in this case the table will be called students, and we will basically include columns such as student ID, full name, the level of grade. Let's include two subject scores such as math and English, as well as an enrollment date. This will allow us to understand the various kinds of data types which are available within mysql, and we can basically get on with the process of inserting sample data. Let's get started by creating this student table. So we will write the command as create table students followed by the opening and closing parenthesis, and here we will define our columns where our unique rows and or tuples will have the values which we would like to store. So here we will write student ID, which would be having a data type of integer followed by the primary key. Before we move on, I would like to explain this in brief. Here we have defined a column called student ID. It is basically having a data type of integer, which means that it can store an integer value. The primary key in this field identifies each student uniquely, meaning that no students in this particular column can have the same ID and it cannot be null. The next column would be the full name. Here we will write full underscore name followed by the data type varchar followed by the parenthesis, which defines the number of characters which this particular field can hold. In this case I'm only allocating 15 characters because it's a demonstration, so we would not like to store too much. So this particular column is intended for storing the name of the student, and here varchar 15 means that it can store up to 15 characters. So this is good enough for first and last names. We can go ahead and type grade underscore level and define integer as the data type for this column. This column would basically represent the grade of the student. For example, 1 can be for first grade, 10 can be for 10, and so on. So here we can basically score accordingly to that particular schema. Here we can define the math score as integer as before, and let's go ahead and write the English score as well as integer. So yeah, we basically have defined this, and we can also add an enrollment date. So we can write enrollment underscore date, and here we will basically give it a data type of date, meaning that it can accept values such as in YY, MM, DD format. So we can basically end this here, and yeah, always remember whenever we go ahead and perform these kinds of tasks, it should always end with a semicolon in order for it to be recognizable as a valid SQL command. You can one another thing about MySQL Workbench is that if you select these commands and click on the beautify or format in SQL script, here this particular option basically formats your entire command in an appropriate way, and we can go ahead and hit the lightning bolt. As you can see in our output, what we expect to see is a result which basically gives us a positive confirmation that this specific table has been created. As you can see, the time, the action, as well as the message, as well as the duration has been given, and basically it tells us whether this particular command has been successfully been executed or not. Here I will go ahead and comment out this particular command, and we can basically leave it as history. So to sum it up, we basically went ahead and created a structured table to store student information, including their ID, name, scores, grade, and enrollment data. They have some unique data types, which basically ensures that the data remains organized as well as it remains easy for the purposes of querying. So now we can go ahead and start the process of inserting some sample data. In SQL, there is a unique way of entering sample data. Here we will basically use a command called insert into the name of the table followed by values, and each value that we are trying to enter corresponds as a tuple or a row value which needs to go under each of the columns in an order respective to that of the column order. So in this scenario, when we are gonna enter the values, it has to follow the order which has been defined here. So here if we give the student ID, it has to uh, follow this particular format of student ID, full name, grade, and so on and so forth. So let us go ahead and do that. So we can do insert into the name of the table students followed by values, and here we will basically enter, let's say, 5 values. Here I am basically giving placeholders where the 5 values or row values will go ahead. And as previously mentioned, each of the SQL statements should always end with a semicolon, otherwise it will give you an invalid response. Here we will give 101 followed by some sample name such as let's say Alice Matthews, something like this. Let's say we can go ahead and give like 8, 88, 92, followed by the date of enrollment, something like, I guess, 2021, 06, 05. Let's go ahead with the second one, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, once I have inserted the values, you can see it has 101, 102, 103 different names, the various kinds of scores, and marks associated with maths and English, as well as their enrollment dates. We can go ahead and click the lightning bolt, and as you can see, the message should have appeared in positive order, by which you can see that 5 rows have affected the records of this particular table called students. Now we can go ahead and comment it out in order to prevent re-execution of the same command. This is a feature that you can implement in mysql workbench. So yeah, let's go ahead with the select command. The select command is your go-to command in order to retrieve or view the data of your choosing. So let's go ahead and select all the data from this particular table called students. So you will write select from students. So you will write select star from students, and once you hit the lightning bolt, you would see a miniature window appear below. So it would be a little bit, I hope this is visible. So as you can see, this is the result grid. Here you can see the values that we entered with the different grade levels, the math scores and the English scores available, along with the names and the enrollment date. Here we basically wrote a command which looks somewhat like this: select star from students, or the name of the table. The asterisk symbol that we have allocated over here basically means give me all the columns. Let's say here we would like to filter it down to, let's say, a few of the respective columns. I'm commenting it out again. We will go ahead, let's just move this a little bit down. And yeah, another thing that I forgot to mention, in your action you would see that for each of the command that you ever execute, that status is always kept track of, or a record of. So you can always see your history, and here all the data associated with the messages are also shown, like 5 rows being affected, which basically correlates with the 5 rows that we have inserted into our table. So I'll just go ahead and move this a little bit down. And yeah, so yeah, let's go ahead and basically retrieve the columns full name and the grade level. So we'll write select full name, comma, grade underscore level from students, and we will hit the semicolon. You can always beautify with this particular option which is available within my SQL workbench. We hit the lightning bolt, and you will see that we basically now have the 2 columns, full name and grade level. So this is one way of filtering down to the columns that we want, but this is a little bit crude method of working with filters. So we will now go ahead and talk about the where clause. The where clause in SQL is a form of conditionality being applied to your command statements, which enables you to filter the data that basically matches your requirements. Let's say we only want to get hold of students who have a grade level which matches 9 or 8, so we can go ahead and write select star from students. Here we are trying to retrieve all the data associated with the students who have a grade level. Let's write grade underscore level, which basically matches 9. We can basically go ahead and beautify it. Okay, so we can hit the lightning bolt, and you can see that we basically have retrieved two records or tuples which are available within this entire table, where the grade level basically matches or satisfies the condition that we have applied. So this is where the where command basically comes into play. So you can go ahead and comment out this particular command. Let's say we want to get hold of students who have a math score which is above 80. So you will write select, let's say we only want to get hold of the full name, so we'll write full underscore name comma math score from students where the math underscore score is greater than 80. So once I hit the lightning bolt, you will see that I have basically come across the values which basically satisfy this particular SQL statement. So only 3 records basically satisfy this particular condition. So let's go ahead and apply multiple conditions. You can basically go ahead and apply and or statements along with your SQL commands. So let's say we want to get hold of information associated with the students. We will filter it down to the name, math score and English score, where the condition is like the math score is above 80 and the English score is above 85. So this basically is a form of multiple conditionality which we are trying to apply. We can go ahead and write select full underscore name math underscore and English. I think the score okay, yeah, from students, and we can write where math underscore is greater than 80 and the English score is basically greater than 85. Here only the records which basically satisfy these two conditions, and if they are returning true for both of these statements, they are the only ones which are going to be retrieved. You can go ahead and hit a lightning bolt again, and you can see that we basically have gotten hold of only 3 records. Another way of filtering is by the enrollment date, which we did not touch as of now, but we can go ahead and talk about that as well. So let's say we want to get hold of students who have enrolled after the date, let's say after 2021 or just after the new year. So we can go ahead and write select full underscore name from the table students where enrollment underscore date is basically anything after the new years of 2021. You can go ahead after January 1st 2021. You can go ahead and beautify, and once you hit the lightning bolt, you will see that we only got 2 students who basically satisfied this particular condition. So yeah, this is one of the ways we can basically go ahead and use select with various conditions that we can apply with the where clause, along with smart use of or and statements. I suppose I did not show the OR implementation. Here if we can take one of the previous commands, and if we go ahead and change the AND to an OR, here we will get hold of multiple records which satisfy either of these conditions, but it is not necessary that the columns basically have to satisfy both of the conditions. So when I go ahead and hit enter, you can see that okay, I guess there are only 2 students. So let's go ahead and I guess insert new records. So like we can go ahead and write insert into students, and write values. So here we can go ahead and write something like, let's say 006, yes, Mr. ABC, something different. I suppose it's grade, so we will give it at 8. Here we will give a value of 75 or 76 and like 89, and the enrollment date as 2021 05 01, and go ahead and beautify this again. Okay, it's already done. Hit the lightning bolt. Right, and since this value is a little bit different, we can basically see that particular record appear for this particular statement, and once I hit enter, you can see that this particular new record does not necessarily satisfy both the conditions. So as you can see, only the English score is about 85. That is because of our implementation of OR. If we go ahead and type something like we can go ahead and write and if we go and implement this particular statement, and you can see that that particular record did not satisfy either or both the condition at the same time. That's why we basically see that particular record being excluded. So I hope this particular implementation of AND and OR is a little bit clear. So we can now move ahead. Yeah, I hope it was a little bit clear. I wanted to show this as an implementation of the basics. We will go further in depth into other SQL statement clauses and conditionalities, but that's it for today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.